God is finished with you. Welcome back to another episode of the Gospel Revolution, our Tuesday night broadcast, where we're sending you more gospel, reminding you, we help you reclaim who you really are and help you remember what you didn't know you've forgotten. That is our mission here at the Gospel Revolution. Michael Lilliborn Williams is going to be teaching us tonight on why God is finished with us. For those of you that don't know him, was an influential speaker in the Word of Faith movement through the 70s, 80s, and 90s until his teachings got so radical that they had to expel him from their ranks. Now he is leading an international ministry known as the Gospel Revolution from his home here in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. So I'm going to give it over to him. But before I do, click, comment, like, engage with us. If you have any questions about anything that Mike says, if you want to contribute, feel free. This is your revolution, and the power is truly in your hands to spread this gospel message. So we want to engage with you below. Without any further ado, here's Michael Williams.
Well, Owen, I don't think that was very nice of you. Telling people that God was finished with them. But it really is true, and we want to show you why God is finished with you. God is not doing a work in you. We want to show you something so powerful that it revolutionizes the way you think and your whole outlook on life when you begin to understand the true work of the cross. I want to take you back to Genesis. It's going to be a long night. But I want to read to you here. This is something that actually Bill Maher taught me this, the atheist, Bill Maher. I saw this on his show many years ago. And he was explaining how stupid the Bible was by pointing this out. And when he pointed it out, I thought, man, that's the most wonderful thing I've ever heard. So when I tell you that I can learn from anybody, I can learn from anybody. It doesn't make any difference who it is. If you keep your ears open, you might hear something you really like. So keep your ears open tonight. We're not atheists around here. We actually totally embrace the power of the work of the cross and know that it really is the truth. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. So we all know this story, right? God created light, the very first thing. That's exactly what he did. He said, "Let there be light." Now, I don't know that I could say that God created light because he is the light. Jesus is the light of the world, but in this state, this is a manifestation of the first time we hear about light being on the earth. Now, there's just a little problem in Genesis, and this is what Bill Maher pointed out to me that night that I happened to be scrolling through channels, and this is what he pointed out to me. Then I'm not going to read all the way through this. You can go back and do that yourself. We're going to jump forward to the fourth day. That's a millennial leap when you're talking about Genesis. Verse 14 begins. Now we go from there, and we've covered the first 3 days of creation in chapter 1. But remember, in the first day, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And then in verse 14, and God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years." Wait a minute. I thought God did that on the first day. Let's read further. "And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the great light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning thereof was the fourth day. Wow. This is where Bill Maher gets off the bus. This is where I jump on the bus. Because the fact is that light existed before there was a sun, moon, and stars. This is going to make so many of you, when you start thinking about Jesus being the light of the world and all of these things, it's going to cause so many lights to go off inside of you. But we're trying to tell you tonight that God's finished with you. We're talking about the very beginning of time here. But it's actually good news, folks. I was trying to hold out and then just kind of stick you with a good church message there for a while that God is finished with you. But I really do want you to know God is finished with you. Much like the way he finished his work in creation. And, you know, God didn't leave something left to be done after he created the world, after he created the sun, moon, and the stars. But the one thing that he spoke first was, let there be light, and there was light, and there wasn't even a sun, moon, and stars until the fourth day. Wow. Now, I want to show you something that's really powerful. We're going to jump over to John chapter 1. Remember, if you want to make this wonderful comparison, read Genesis 1 and then read John chapter 1. It's a beautiful leap in time, and it covers a whole lot of territory. And in John chapter 1, he says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the same was in the beginning with God. Remember, God said, let there be light. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was that life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Now, I want to draw an analogy here for you that I think is absolutely true. You see, even though there was light on the earth 3 days before there was a sun, moon, and stars, the fact of it is that the sun, moon, and stars, all it gave was the comprehension of light. You see, without sun, moon, and stars, we would have no true comprehension of light. And that's actually what John says here. He says, and the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. I think this could have a twofold meaning. It's speaking about Jesus, but also talking about the first creation. And that is that God spoke and said, let there be light. And there was light for 3 days before there was a sun, moon, and stars. Wow. Then the light shined in the darkness, and the darkness couldn't comprehend it. That also is a double meaning of creation and then the process of recreation. The fact of it is that the light did shine in the darkness in creation. But see, darkness could not be comprehended without a sun, a moon, and stars. Because without the sun, moon, and stars, our ability to comprehend is just not there. Now, what is the gospel? You see, the gospel is that the power of God. This was the very first thing that God said was, let there be light. And the very first thing that comes out of the cross after Jesus said, it is finished, Jesus said, it is finished. I happen to think that you are probably included in the it that is finished. You see, you are finished, folks. You're finished. That is one of the most powerful things that you're ever going to know in your life. This truly will help you find who you truly are and reclaim the identity that you never knew you forgot. You see, the world is walking around in a stupor, especially in religious community. Sometimes I think that people that don't believe anything are far ahead of those of us who were raised in Christianity or any other form of religion on the face of the earth. Because the fact is, the human race is a completed work. It's not something God's going to work on. I remember many years ago, I worked with Donna Douglas. You may remember her as Ellie Mae on the Beverly Hillbillies. She and I worked together for some time and did worked on churches together, worked at churches together. And Donna would do the singing. She had a little album out. Donna passed away, I think it was January in 2015. It was a very sad loss for a lot of people. And but she had this little song that she would sing in every one of the meetings that we did. And here's kind of the way the song would go. And forgive me, I'm not trying to poke fun at all, but it was just a little kind of a ditty. And Donna would sing, "He's still working on me. I'm not what I'm supposed to be. God created the sun, the moon, the stars, but he's still working on me." And I thought of that as I was getting this ready, and I thought, you know what? There's one thing that Donna has known since January of 2015. God wasn't working on her. She was perfect. She was holy. She was without fault and without blame. And not because of something Donna did. We go on down here in verse 9. Says, that was the true light. It's talking about Jesus now. You can read through the entire verses yourself. Which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. It says, he lighteth every man that cometh into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. Are you convinced that the world was made by him? I'm one of those that really believes the world was made by him. He then came into his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name. Well, Michael, right there it is. It says you've got to believe on his name. But this is chapter 1. Have you ever read to chapter 12? Where it says that the prophecies that Isaiah prophesied that no one would ever believe in him, that no one would ever be able to meet that requirement. In fact, that God blinded their eyes and stopped their ears from seeing the light, because it was not God's plan for people to believe. It was God's plan to redeem everyone through the powerful work of the cross. You know, that's where the last verse you're going to hear if you're in church on Sunday morning. But I'm telling you, there's more to this. He says, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. Wow. Whose will is not involved in your salvation? Man's will is not involved in man's salvation. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. I've got good news for you. God is finished with you. And if we can just wake you up, you are now filled with grace. You're filled with truth. You see, when I share with you, I'm only trying to connect with that which you already have. I can't give you something that God has already given. What an arrogant thing that Christianity has thought, that they can go around and distribute and be in control and broker the salvation of God to this planet. God's salvation cannot be brokered by man. God's salvation was completed by his own power, by his own will, and without the will of man. Don't you believe that God is still working on you? God's finished with you. It's called the finished work of the cross.
Isn't that good news? That was amazing. So I'm scrolling through here on Facebook and engaging with everyone, and I see that Facebook is notifying me that I can share this video with my friends. I can subscribe to see videos come up whenever we go live, and that I can click this little button that will allow me to see this video pop up first in my feed. So we encourage you to do that, and to always be engaged, and to continue to be reminded of who you are, and to be encouraged to remember who you are that you didn't know you've forgotten. Anyway, we'll see you next week. We also have Grace Conference coming up September 14th, 15th, and 16th of 2018 in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We hope to see you there. I'll put a link below so that you can find out more information and figure out how you can get there. So we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Gospel Revolution.